let's address this, shall we? My name is Brandon. I'm the creator of the Student Fitness TikTok channel. I'm also a personal trainer who has made improvements to my Pectus Excavatum. So a while ago, I think it's been like 3 months now, I posted this TikTok, and in it I claimed that Pectus Excavatum wasn't genetic. And as you can see, I got a lot of backlash for that. It was pretty insane. Someone actually found out where I worked. Honestly, that's kind of my fault for putting where I worked in my fucking bio, but they got my number from the website, they got the manager's number, they called the manager up, like they were like screaming at her on the phone or something, trying to basically force her to force me to take that video down because it portrays the condition as something that's rectifiable. It wasn't a good experience for that manager. I really feel sorry for her. So yeah, after that whole experience, I kind of decided that, you know, I really need to take a break from all of this, a break from social media. I mean, this was the first time I'd ever really experienced anything like this before, you know, like having someone from the internet come into my real life. I mean, like that just has never happened to me. So I really felt like I needed to take a step back to recover my mental health, just go back to baseline, and then be able to tackle this from a more tactful perspective. In my break, I also decided that continuing with the short form content on TikTok probably wouldn't be a good idea because it's not gonna allow me to fully express the concepts that I'd used in great detail. Like a 1 minute TikTok can only show so much, you know. But first, as much as I would love to share my own experience, and as much as I think that it's valuable, I also think that it's a good idea to look at the research as well and look at what that research has to say. In this first article by Brochas and al., there were various hypotheses proposed for the main cause of the condition, genetics being a very obvious first one to look at. They said that it was likely genetic, as 43% of the cases had family history. However, no specific genetic defect was actually found. Now, I'm inclined to slightly disagree here, as 57%, meaning the majority of the people with the condition, have no family history whatsoever. To say that the majority of the people have no family history and then come to the conclusion that it's genetic just doesn't seem right to me. I guess they said likely genetic. Regardless, I don't feel like that's a good label to put on something, especially when it's split down the middle, if anything, slightly towards the non-genetic side. I'm not going to say that there isn't a genetic factor, but it's probably multifactorial instead, just based off of that data. It also states that clinically, Pectus excavatum is associated with a typical posture, thin, tall patients with a pot belly, and forward drifted shoulders. And that could all lead to permanent scoliosis. Yeah, so not only does this statement link Pectus excavatum with scoliosis, it also unknowingly links it to having a narrow infrasternal angle, which basically is the angle from the sternum down to the lower ribs. If that angle is, I think, 100 or 90 degrees or less, then that is a narrow infrasternal angle, or a narrow ISA. This is something that I can relate to because I have a narrow ISA, scoliosis, very mild scoliosis, and asymmetric Pectus excavatum, where the indent is more towards the right side of my ribs and I have a larger left rib flare. Zac Cupples explains this very well. You should also probably check out Bill Hartman, as he is the creator of the narrow and wide ISA archetypes. So definitely check both of those guys out. And although you can be born with a narrow ISA, which comes with a bias towards a concentric orientation of the front of the axial skeleton, you don't necessarily have to give in to those biases. You can train in such a way to maintain as much of your movement capabilities as possible, knowing what your biases are. As for the rest of the hypotheses, I'm going to show you this diagram. It very clearly shows all of the ones listed in this study. Pretty much all of these aren't genetic from what I can tell. And the intrauterine pressure hypothesis is very interesting, as it explains why people can be born with pectus excavatum without it necessarily being genetic. Pressures in the womb can cause various bone abnormalities. This is the reason why one of my lumbar vertebrae is actually disconnected. It definitely was not due to genetics, and this particular hypothesis could be a very good leading theory as to why maybe some people may not necessarily be genetically predisposed to having pectus excavatum, but still get it when they're born. I also want to mention the cartilage hypothesis as well. A lot of people think that cartilage in the sternum will cause pectus excavatum, but this study by Isinger et al. Found that not only was the cartilage overgrowth hypothesis not true, but they found that people with pectus excavatum have slightly shorter costal cartilages on the side with the indent. They also found that the cartilage hypothesis in general needs to be further studied. They also mentioned that pectus excavatum still has no known cause. As I mentioned, there is a link between pectus excavatum and scoliosis, and right now, I, a random personal trainer, am going to attempt to explain what that link actually is. I also want to mention that from this point on, I will be referencing some articles, but not all of them will be peer-reviewed, and certainly take everything I say with a grain of salt. This first article doesn't directly showcase a person with pectus excavatum, but it does give some hints about the potential causes of it. I believe that this showcases the link between an asymmetric pectus excavatum and a left anterior-interior chain. Go look at this Connor Harris article and this PRI article if you want to learn more about what a left AIC is. But as you can see, this patient has a scoliosis that is bending into that right side, meaning the right side of the vertebrae have more space between them and less space on the left side. Or in other words, the right side of the spine is expanded and the left side is compressed. This means that more air is flowing into the back of that right rib cage, and less air is in the back of the left rib cage. How do we know this? Well, look at this girl's freaking ribs. As she bends over, you can clearly see that that right rib cage is just sticking out from the back. And you can see how the back of the left rib cage is just like compressed in. You know, you can see the difference like in height. If you take a look at my asymmetric pectus video, there's a part towards the end where I get Jose from JPX Performance to demonstrate an exercise, and you can see how his ribs expand and compress in the opposite direction from the back. You can see this difference in the height of his rib cage, and it's just from doing this exercise that puts him in that position. It's really cool. Now you may be wondering, well, what about the front side then? Well, if the posterior left is compressing, then the anterior left has to expand, so that's why you get that left rib flare. As the posterior right expands, the anterior right has to compress, so the indent is more towards the right side. And we can literally see that in these two images here. It's so obvious. You got that compression on the right side of the rib cage and the expansion on the left. And over here, this girl, you could say there is a slight indent. It's really hard to tell from this, but you can definitely see that left rib flare just popping out there. Now you've seen what these concepts are now based off of. You've seen how compression and expansion can occur at the rib cage and what that means from a 3D perspective almost. But did applying these concepts and doing exercises that twist my ribs in the opposite direction, did that actually help my pectus excavatum? I mean, obviously building muscle helps a lot, as you can see. But my rib flare has gone down even when I try to relax. The indent is harder to notice as well. Now, I will say, I never got my Haller index checked, so I have no way of comparing the both of them. But these are the results that I have gotten. Interpret that how you will. I also do have an x-ray here. I took this back in 2016. Apologies for the YouTube logo, but yeah, I've had a very mild scoliosis. Hopefully, if I continue to practice these concepts over a longer period of time, I should get some decent results here. I'm also pretty apprehensive about doing the x-ray right now because I don't believe I've practiced these concepts for long enough. It's just one of those things that like I had a breakthrough about like recently, and I was just kind of like, oh my god, why does the world not know about this? I do believe that, you know, with the evidence provided, that over time, sticking to these concepts and this training method can create a noticeable change. Now, can I guarantee that my scoliosis will be fixed? No, of course not. But I am willing to be the guinea pig for you guys. And I'm willing to test this shit out. I'm really eager to see what happens, no matter what the outcome may actually be. I think it's about time that I call myself out a little bit as well, because quite frankly, I believe that everyone that commented on that TikTok wasn't coming from a bad place. I actually believe that the criticism was justified for the most part. Me claiming that Pectus excavatum is 100% not genetic is just as wrong as claiming that it's 100% genetic. The research is very clear on this. The real cause for Pectus seems to be multifactorial. There are genetic factors that set up the bias for Pectus excavatum, and there are also environmental factors that stimulate its development. I also want to mention that me claiming that I had fixed my condition was also wrong. Although I may have made it slightly better, it's still there. I still see the indent a little bit. The rib flare is still there, albeit a lot less. But there is a silver lining here. Instead of me saying that I've completely fixed my condition, completely fixed Pectus excavatum, I'll say this. I'm on the journey of fixing my Pectus excavatum, and I want to share that with you guys. I hope that with that in mind, I can help people realize that there are still a lot of unknown processes involved in this condition. We still have a lot to learn, really. We don't have to settle for acceptance when we can still try new things to make it better. And the best part is that these concepts that I've been following can potentially achieve results with non-surgical and non-invasive means. This makes it way more cost-effective and way less risky. Let me know if a video series documenting like how I fixed my Pectus excavatum sounds interesting to you, and I might make it a thing. You'll essentially be seeing me go through this whole journey, and if I fail, feel free to hate all you want. I will take that. But if I succeed, well, you get to just follow exactly what I did to fix this condition. I'd say that's a win-win, right? Obviously, you know, take some caution in that because everyone's body is different. So you might need to make a few tweaks here and there, depending on your body structure. But for the most part, you can at least follow the concept. So that's probably a plus as well. That's pretty much it. Take care, and I wish you all the best. Till next time.